guidance internal. 10, 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running, commit, liftoff. We are so.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Turbo Ryan.
And I'm Turbo Rob.
And this is TurboRetroDuo. We're a retro gaming podcast hosted by two buddies who are former video game industry employees and lifelong gamers, game collectors. And we're just going to get together on a weekly basis and kind of chat about what's going on in our lives as far as video gaming is concerned and retro news and collecting and just have a good time.
Yeah. And compared to this guy, I'm an amateur, but I think I bring a little bit of that amateur look. I played games for a long time since I was a kid, but not quite yet as into the collecting as this guy here.
I think you're still pretty knowledgeable. Like Rob went to Japan. I don't want to dox you here, but Rob went to Japan last year, and when I told him the stuff I wanted him to look for in the retro game stores, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm already looking for all that stuff." So yeah. I'd say he's pretty, not everybody can have a geek cape, but he's working on his, and that's all we can ask of anybody, So welcome to Turbo Retro Duo. So the first segment, Rob, tell me if you've heard about this. The first segment of this podcast is going to be what we're tentatively calling retro news. And we haven't quite figured out how the format for this is going to go, but the idea is that I'm going to pick out a few things, or we are going to pick out a few things that happened over the last week that are related to retro gaming, and then we're just going to kind of grouse about it and give hot takes. And we'll see where that goes. We might show some stuff on screen. We'll include links to all the stuff. And meanwhile, we're also going to be playing a video game. So today, in honor of the first news item, we're going to be playing Strider 2, which is a Capcom arcade game from 1999. So why is Rob playing Strider 2? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm filling you in on some retro news. The latest update of MAME, which is MAME.275, added some support for some games that for a long time have been kind of broken and haven't really been available over MAME. And one of them is Strider 2, which you can see here. And so, previous to this, Strider had a lot of crashes and it was pretty unstable. But the fact that it's recently available for play brings a game that is really a hidden gem for the arcades to life. And a few other things that they improved were major improvements in this updates are enhanced support for the Amiga 2000 Zorro II bus, adding DMA capabilities and support for more expansion cards. They fixed a lot of graphical glitches in classic Konami arcade titles, meaning there's better visual fidelity for some fan favorite games. And then, another big win was a full emulation of the Oberheim DMX drum machine, which I guess that's probably has some benefit for some PC games that use that for the sound engine or whatever. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't really keep up too much on MAME because if you're using like a RetroPie or whatever, you're kind of stuck on an older version of MAME, like MAME 181. And so the most recent MAME updates are kind of, for the people that are really on the cutting edge. But because this game was one of the ones that came out, I thought it would be a fun game for us to play. And so here we are. So tell us a little bit about Strider from the game player's point of view, Rob.
It's got some basic 2D platformer feel. It feels good. It feels more like that second, third generation best of NES, beginning of PlayStation era 2D platformer.
Yeah.
A little bit, I don't know if this was before or after Symphony of the Night. Maybe before or after Dracula X?
Slightly before. But this is the arcade board that this is based on is essentially like an arcade version of a PlayStation. So definitely that era of technology here for sure.
What year of PlayStation did this come out?
So, this came out in 1999, but it started development in like 1998. So it was kind of a long, troubled development. And for a while, they didn't know if it was going to be coming out or how it was going to be coming out or anything like that. But, you know, it did eventually appear. And there was a version that came out for the PlayStation, but this version is slightly better looking and playing, and the sound is better. All right, we got 2 more segments in the retro news that we're going to get to. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about Strider 2. So prepare yourselves for that. Are you ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was born ready.
Nope, don't want to do that.
Oh, I can hear myself. That sounds pretty good. All right, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about today in retro news was the story that had come out about Limited Run Games' recent releases for some Nintendo Entertainment System cartridges that they had been putting out. And the story that came through about this was that the carts that they were using, they may have been, you know, kind of cutting corners here and there. We can't really say, but I'll just kind of read through what I have down here in my notes. So Limited Run Games, it's a well-known publisher of physical retro game cartridges, meaning that they are a company that in the current day is releasing games for systems like, you know, the Sega Genesis, the Nintendo Entertainment System. They also release games for like Switch and stuff like that, but you know, like I have a couple of limited run games for like the Sega CD and the Genesis and stuff like that. Unfortunately, they are currently facing some backlash over allegations which have surfaced that their NES cartridges could potentially harm collectors' consoles. The issue, flagged by a customer named Jordy, stems from voltage mismatches between the cartridges and the original NES hardware. So the problem lies in the fact that these cartridges, they run on 3.3 volts, while the NES operates at a 5 volts level. And there is a voltage regulator on the carts, but it seems to lack proper logical level translation, and that means that the power that's being pushed into and out of the NES is incorrect, or it's not what it's expecting to be, and over time that could damage both the cartridge and the console itself. And so, beyond the technical flaws, another person also noted that the quality of the games themselves seems to be in question. Like one of the NES cartridges that he bought was soft locking, and there were some bugs that had been patched, but they had still appeared in the cartridge version of the game. So basically, you're getting a buggy cart that could potentially fry your NES, and that's not really great for people that are trying to collect classic games. And it's too bad that this company that is trying its best to make games available for classic machines is creating some games that are potentially going to damage your system. And so I've been talking about this on a forum with one of my friends, and you know, some people kind of ask the question of like, well, if it's currently playable and it's not really, you know, it could cause a problem, like, is this really something we need to worry about? And the person I was talking to sort of responded like, well, if you know, had an 80-year-old grandpa and he's doing okay, would you want him to go skydiving? You know, that might not be good for the old ticker box. So why risk it? You know, why take a chance? And I think that's kind of where people are coming from. Like, if the NES requires 5 volts, then whatever you're sticking into it should probably also use 5 volts. Probably. Much like Rob is using his amazing hack and slash abilities to take out this spider.
Yeah. That first level is pretty easy.
Yeah. There's 5 levels in total, so we'll see if...
It probably gets harder.
You know,
arcade style.
But much like every time you play MAME, because you have kind of unlimited quarters, it sort of makes every game kind of trivial, because eventually you could just continue your way through it. All right, we got one last piece of retro news, and that is kind of a similar thing to the previous one, but something else I wanted to talk about real briefly, and that is some controversy that has surrounded the recent releases of some games from Retrobit, who's a company that has re-released like classic 8 and 16-bit games that were basically only available in Japanese, and they've been releasing some English translated versions of them. But unfortunately, it seems like the translations that they have been using may have been plagiarized. So, in particular, the 4 games that were called out in this article that I looked at pointed out Shockman Zero, Assault Suit Valken, Grey Lancer, and Magioko King of the Demons. So, the way that they kind of determined this was that they looked at the translation and it's materially different, but the changes are very just kind of grammatical, and there's a lot of things that were left in, like one of the translators left his name in Japanese, and that ended up in the game itself, so it's pretty obvious that at the very least, they were using these translations as reference. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with using an amateur translation, but I think in those cases, those people should definitely be credited and probably paid.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's a lot of work. Some translations are a lot of work because they actually require sort of programming knowledge of the system itself. If you have to do things like make the sprites a little bit different size because you're in English versus Japanese or something like that. And so, I don't know. We'll put some links in the description to these news sources. So if you want to read about that yourself, you can. And, let us know what you think. Is it cool to steal translations? I'm thinking it's not.
No. I think it's pretty clearly not.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly not, too. So, all right. That ends Retro News. Thank you for your time. Now I want to talk a little bit about Strider 2 while I'm sitting here watching this. And personally, I love the way that this looks. I really like the mix of 3D and 2D. Like I know, Rob, you kind of mentioned Symphony of the Night, which I think is a good comparison. Although I think the difference here is that the 3D aspects are a lot more pronounced than the 3D stuff was in.
Yeah, a little more experimental. I think, at the time.
I like the previous thing you were just playing with, the flying cars and stuff like that. Like I think that looks pretty cool.
What is it?
How's this boss fight?
None of them are that hard, compared to the time.
Yeah.
They're challenging, but they're challenging like they used to be. There are definitely more challenging 2D games. I'm not doing well, but it's because never done.
This is a game.
Reading.
This is a game that we probably didn't play in the arcades, and I'm going to assume you didn't have on the PlayStation.
No, I never heard of this.
Yeah.
I knew about the first Strider. Yeah. But I never heard of this particular one. And then when we looked it up, we found that other Strider.
That's right. I have the other Strider we can play too.
This is a little bit buggy.
It's all ready to go.
This guy's just chilling down there? I have to, bring him out?
There might be a way for you to get to... Aha!
Yeah, but...
Can you do a double jump and slash? Oh, look at that. Yeah, he really is cheating. Look at this guy. And his name's Solo? Yeah, slash him right there.
Well, I need to get him out of the...
Oh,
interesting.
Look at this guy. Maybe you don't even need to fight him.
Let's see what happens.
Whoa, sweet. You got some kind of thing. You have kind of a boost power.
Where'd he go? Yeah, it's kind of cheating me here.
I think when you're hanging like that, you can... Oh, look at this. Now he's standing there. Continue.
The thing is, this has been the first fight that's a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
But I think if I tried that, if I tested myself a couple times, I'd be able to get that without too much. This seems a little bit more.
Yeah.
This is. More...
This is kind of a direct reference to the first Strider. There was also a dragon thing you could ride around on and fight. It was like you went into the Kremlin or something like that, and all the Russian guys turned into a dragon or whatever, There's
some what did they call that? When you could slow down the
like bullet time?
No, if you overwhelm the.
Well, look at that. What's he doing to? You do have some kind of super move right now going on, a boost meter. Yeah, get Emperor Dragon.
Okay. I beat that in a slightly less time than that previous thing.
Pretty impressive, I have to say.
I mean,
You know? And then look at this interesting art style. You know? It's kind of expression. It kind of looks like French sci-fi comic book art.
yeah, I remember seeing a little bit about the art in some of the information online about this game. They were definitely trying to take a very specific approach with the art direction.
Yeah. Like some
Comic book.
American comic book stuff.
A little bit more expressive than normal anime, just slightly. It looked a little bit like very affected by Street Fighter 2.
Well, this is the same team that worked on Marvel vs. Capcom games. So like they did like Marvel superheroes, and so one of the reasons that they wanted to make this was that Strider had become sort of popular again after his inclusion in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Right.
And so they wanted to capitalize on that.
I remember that. That is what this guy looks like.
And the original idea was that they were just going to create a basic platforming game using all the same sprites from Marvel vs. Capcom, thinking that would be cheaper, but in the end, that only created a whole bunch of headaches, and they actually didn't end up using the same sprites or anything like that. So it had a very troubled kind of development cycle that started off as sort of like, oh, well, he's popular again, and it'll be easy to make a game, and we could just use all the same sprites, and that'll be no problem. But then, of course, it took a long time, and they had to redo a bunch of stuff, and it almost got canceled a couple of times. And look at this. You got Metal Hengst. He's coming for you. All right, let me give you guys some backstory on this game. So, Strider 2 is the official release to the Capcom classic arcade game Strider. It was released in 1999 for the ZN2 arcade board, and I got a little information about the ZN2 arcade board here that I can share, and was later ported to the PlayStation in the year 2000. So there was also and Rob mentioned this earlier, there was a non-canonical sequel to Strider, which was also called Strider 2, and that was released to kind of like European computers and the Master System and stuff. So as you can see here, this game is a side-scrolling action platformer that features 3D polygonal environments, but retains its fast-paced acrobatic combat that defined its predecessor. Players once again take control of Hiryu, slicing through enemies and obstacles across 5 stages, each ending with a powerful boss fight. So we've already seen one of those. It's pretty exciting. So Strider 2 is designed as both a remake and a sequel. It had a modernized setting and a new rival character, Strider Hien. And while the game closely mirrors the original structure, its ending implies a timeline set 2,000 years later. Interesting. All right, so much like Yangus pointed out, the character design was by a Capcom designer named Harumaru. His drawing inspiration was from American comics like Spawn, Mike Mignola's Hellboy, and Simon Bisley's artwork. And this also led to the redesign of Hiryu, which first appeared in Marvel vs. Capcom in 1998, before making his official return in Strider 2. So I mentioned the Sony ZN2 board before. You want to hear some more about some arcade hardware?
Yeah. Arcade hardware sounds...
Yeah. So the Sony ZN2 board was essentially an arcade version of the PlayStation 2, but it had enhancements which tailored it for arcade gaming. Unlike the PlayStation, which used CD-based storage, the ZN2 used ROM boards, allowing for faster data access and improved performance. Capcom was one of the primary developers to license and use the platform for several arcade titles, including Strider 2. It had a 50 megahertz 32-bit RISC CPU. It was capable of 15 and 24 kilohertz resolutions, supporting both low and mid-resolution arcade monitors. So that's like, I think, 240p and 320p or something like that. So don't at me, retro RGB bros, in the chat, but that's what I think it is. It was JAMA compatible, though some games required a dual sync monitor. And its predecessor was the ZN1, appropriately enough. Some other games that came out on the ZN2, I think maybe even Yangus mentioned this one. One of them was Rival Schools, which came out in 97.
I remember that.
Street Fighter EX2 and Street Fighter EX2 Plus both came out on this. Tech Romancer, and of course, everyone's favorite, Tetris, the Grand Master. I got a little more information about Strider 2 that I'm going to share with everybody while Rob is a hacking and a slashing. And in particular, I just wanted to talk about Atsushi Tomita, who was the creative force behind not only Marvel vs. Capcom, but also Strider 2. He began his career at Capcom around 1994, working as an assistant designer on X-Men Children of the Atom and Marvel Superheroes, both of which were great PlayStation ports as well. His big break was X-Men vs. Street Fighter in 1996, where he introduced the tag team mechanic, a revolutionary feature that became a defining element of the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise. And he continued refining the series with Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter in 1997, introducing assist attacks, which further deepened the gameplay. And so he was a big fan of Strider, and he wanted to bring Strider into Marvel vs. Capcom, which he did, and that's kind of what eventually led to him making Strider 2 as well. Now this has kind of a, God of War vibe, this guy here. You're fighting against Herzog Schlange.
What does Schlange mean?
Oh, is that Herzog Schlange there? So it's not even the dragons you're fighting? It's the guy on the hoverboard? Oh my god.
Controls can be a little bit...
something to be desired.
It's unexpected. It feels nice, but there's just a couple, abilities that I would expect to have that I don't. I don't have any directional control once I hit that double jump. I'm on for the ride. I can't go back.
Yeah.
And I kind of expect that. I want to say that Symphony...
Like some kind of cancel move, sort of Yeah, but they're definitely setting you up for failure there with those pits.
Yeah, because, like I said, you kind of... you really got to time it.
Maybe they're expecting that you would grab onto the edge like that. And then, but you can't. You kind of miss.
And there's a lower point where you just can't.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've been presented with the limitations of the controls as much. Before this, it felt more like Mega Man.
Yeah. I said it before, but I really do like this 2D, 3D look. This looks like a Soul Calibur level or something like that, but with the, I
wonder what Schlange means.
You've almost got Herzog Schlange defeated.
Or is it?
Look at all this.
Schlong?
So do the blue things actually do anything for you?
I think they're just points, because I don't think they amount to anything. But you get shmup style power ups every once in a while that just pop out of stuff. Sometimes it just feels like you want an extra something on those jumps, and it's not there for you.
I think there might be a charge attack
there,
or something like that.
There you go. There's that some sort of.
But I don't know what I'm not really sure what good that does you.
Something, I guess.
Oh, maybe that's what the blue things are. Are they like your charge meter or something like that? Or are they just points?
I think those are just maybe they are. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're charge meters. Haven't really needed it until right now, so I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, mission cleared.
That's got to be bad.
Yeah, I think S rank is what you want, but that's okay.
Sense.
If you were playing this in a Japanese arcade, they would really make fun. Yeah, I really like this art.
Yeah,
it's
cool. A little interstitial art. Well done.
Okay. So Strider 2 faced significant development struggles, and Tomita was brought in midway through as a designer to help steer it towards completion. The project was nearly canceled, and the latter half of development was so challenging that Tomita has described it as a memory his brain rejects. Despite these difficulties, his perseverance ensured the game's release, and while he has expressed regret over some of the shortcomings, Strider 2 remains a cult classic and a testament to his dedication. Beyond these projects, Tomita has contributed to the Gundam Versus series and left a lasting impact on fighting and action games. And his innovations in gameplay mechanics and his passion for classic Capcom characters have shaped some of the most beloved games in arcade history.
There's definitely some cool mechanics I noticed. One of these, the wall crawling feels better than a lot of 2D platformers. Certainly the character design is beautiful, even for the time. These 2D sprites are just
it really has that kind of 90s era Street Fighter 2D art vibe going on.
And it kind of feels a little bit ahead of its time in terms of like speed. It's got a little bit of the Sonic go fast kind of responsiveness. Oh, except for that.
Right in the old water.
Except for when you move forward, you better be much like Sonic. You better be prepared.
You better be ready for whatever's coming next. And so far, it's been pretty stable on this version of MAME. You know, there's some weird artifacting, but no freezing or anything like that.
You can kind of. The only thing I'll say is the bosses. You can kind of trick them. See how it's slowing down?
Yeah.
If I kind of overwhelm it, it kind of loses.
Yeah. You're fighting a missile mobile right now, which is great.
Yeah.
Look at those penguins. Oh my god, that's great.
Some of the boss design, I think, maybe where people were a little bit more critical because it's not that challenging. Yeah. Some of them are challenging.
You think this is a Snow Bros reference? These guys?
I hope so.
Maybe
these guys are jacked.
Was that a Capcom game or was that a Nintendo game? Probably
I don't
Nintendo
remember
game.
that was one of those games. Oh, I think it was Nintendo first party.
Yeah,
because they had it in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, okay. So probably not. But a lot of these little machines and stuff also feel very Mega Man-y as well, like you said.
I don't think it has the mechanical competency of Mega Man, but it has a great look and feel that you can tell they've spent a lot of time on, at least up front, on the engine at least.
That's nice that they're giving you a helicopter ride.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going in the right direction here.
Oh, they're trying to shoot you.
I feel like... Am I doing the right thing here? Okay.
Oh, there you go. See, he's dropping you off.
Thanks.
And now that he gave you a ride to the top of the mountain, you can murder him. The Beluga F.
See, I mean, it's just a little bit of... You can tell they, like... It feels like they ran out of time on some of these things. Like...
Yeah.
There's just a lot of exploits, I feel. Like, this would be a great speedrun game. Because I feel like you'd find lots of...
Where you're like, oh, you just stand exactly here. Oh, there's a Capcom cow. Look at that. Nice.
Tell me about the Capcom cow. I don't think I know that. I'm not as much of a Capcom head.
I mean, I feel like I recognize that, but I couldn't tell you what I recognize it from. Die. See, look, there's a Capcom monkey. It's all kinds of great Capcom stuff.
Just very exploitable. Like, I got hit, but it's like...
Yeah. I like how you kind of disintegrate into like a electric explosion there.
I want to see.
Oh, there's a sword. There's all kinds of crap.
What does the monkey do?
Yeah, you're really destroying it now.
Again, as you said, I got a bunch of credits, so
yeah,
I would have died like a couple levels back.
Look at it, just like the cover of the Beastie Boys album there, right in the ground. I think there is a slide move.
Yeah, I need to jump earlier.
Oh yeah,
it cuts off my double jump if I jump at the very
easy, and then they gave you a boost right at the end when you don't need it.
It's a little rough around the edges, but there's a lot of like love that went into this, and a lot of like cool stuff. I can see why it's a cult classic.
Yeah,
but was a little bit unloved when it came out. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think when it came out, it came out at a time when people were they kind of derided 2D stuff, like is really seen as sort of old gin, you know. And this came out in 2000, so that's like, you know, right when the PS2 was about to come out, and so you're talking like Metal Gear Solid had come out. Like, there's a lot of stuff that was already sort of
cinematic kind of stuff.
Yeah, or even Resident Evil or something, where like, which was kind of the other way. It was kind of 3D figures with 2D backgrounds. Look at this mammoth cyborg. All right, you want some trivia?
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you some. I don't know how great these trivia questions are, but we're gonna call this, you know, Strider Trivia 2. So besides being ported to Sony's PlayStation console, rumors at the time hinted at the game being planned for a release on the Sega Dreamcast. But this was never confirmed officially by Capcom. But that does make a lot of sense because they did port a lot of their other like Street Fighter games to Dreamcast, and this probably would have been a great Dreamcast game, but it was never confirmed. And so the game takes inspiration from Hero's appearance in Marvel vs. Capcom with the following elements from the crossover series present. Number 1, the game's soundtrack uses similar percussion and certain musical instruments. I don't know about the quality of this trivia, but that's one thing it says. This is also true for certain sound effects used in the gameplay. Hero's sprites and those of many enemies use a similar but downsampled sprite style. And finally, Hero's design for this game actually originates from Marvel vs. Capcom series, which was then being used in later media.
I can see that. Yeah, it does look like that. Once you said that to me, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely.
Damn! Now you're dying from going the other way. Did they reverse the gravity on you? Look at this. This is great.
It's a little bit of.
Yeah.
This one's tough to get used to.
Yeah. You got to turn your brain around. Some more trivia. The 2014 Strider game included a rearranged theme from Strider 2, namely the Stage 2 first theme called Armed Fortress Invasion 1. So if you ever play Strider 2014, which I guess was a PlayStation Xbox Live arcade game, you can hear some of that. And this is the first and only game in the Strider series whose spoken audio is completely in Japanese, as opposed to the multilingual speeches in the first game. Uh-oh. Oh, God.
Cool.
They're turning into walruses. Defeat the researchers!
This feels very Symphony. And I guess Dracula X would have been before that, right? With these dual boss.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, I didn't look to see... Or I didn't see any crossover, but I guess Symphony was a Konami game, so it's probably unlikely that there was, but you never know.
Not crossover, just like inspiration, like stylistic, template for 2D researchers.
Yeah,
that's what these guys.
Because they were like scientists at the beginning, but then you've been here murdering them for their perversion of the scientific arts. Some complicated platforming. All right, here we go. Beautiful. Area. Okay, wonderful. Tap. The ventilator. Take that, ventilator. That was weird. That was kind of a weird ending segment.
Again, you can tell they were trying to do something, but I can feel the production problems. People arguing and people not wanting to.
People are like, this isn't, you've got to do more of that sweet gravity stuff.
See, this is fun.
That's kind of cool. Look at that. You're just
interesting physics.
Flipping all around.
This level is very interesting physics-wise for this time frame. Because it has a center of gravity, and the center of gravity is in the middle, as opposed to on the ground. And this would have been way before they could have done that. This is all fake, gravity. It's not real. I wonder if this is and there's a 3D rendered item in the middle. This is probably a very heavy level. If you were to tell me this was the largest size level on the disc, I would believe it.
Yeah. Oh, now you've got an experimental target to fight. The Kraken! Oh my God, look at this.
Okay, finally I'm in a situation where I don't have some little space to hide.
Oh yeah, look at all this. Now we're really getting into the quarter munching sections.
Yeah. It's those claws. I can kind of get right here, but then I gotta dodge those claws. And they don't give me much time.
Oh yeah, get him. Can you do damage to his lobster crab arm if you slash the other way?
Oh yeah, that must be what it... Oh, I gotta kill the arms. Okay, now I don't think he can hit me.
You gotta kill that lobster crab.
He's gotta open that little... Oh, I see. So you only get so much time with the claw being dead.
With his face.
And he just opens it just a little.
Yeah, and there's some kind of weird stuff here, like the kind of ice background is a little weird looking,
Low res,
but
yeah.
you know. Damn. Yeah, get him. Oh, come on. That was a cheap shot, Kraken. It's funny that hitting his head doesn't really do much of anything. Yeah. There you go.
That's a kind of a fun. That's probably the more fun boss because you have to kind of figure out the pattern.
Yeah, it's not just stand there and slash. Oh, look at this.
What?
It's like some Kirby crackle in the back.
He's a survivor of the Striders, just like me.
Oh, okay.
Let him go for now.
We can follow him and learn.
However, it doesn't really matter until the Lord comes. The
Oh
Lord.
boy, here we go. We're getting that deep Strider lore we all love. There he is with this. There he is with the penguins. We all love. Everybody knows and loves Strider's penguins. So what about collecting Strider 2? What if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, "Damn, this looks like a lot of fun, and I want to have myself a copy of Strider 2." What's the reality of owning this for yourself? You might find yourself asking, and that's a great question. I crunched some of the numbers here. There's kind of two different ways you can own a copy of Strider 2.
Do we have some comments on chat?
Oh, let's see. We did from Furtive Spy. He says kill the nubbins, which are the nubbins on the Kraken, which you did a good job of killing. And he's begging me for the numbers. If he wants to collect this, he wants to know.
You
and
left
then
him high and dry.
and then Yangus comes in and comments, "Oh snap, it's Furtive Spy, #1 numbers guy." That's true. That's true. Show me the numbers. All right, so here's the breakdown. Now, if you wanted to own an arcade version of this game, I looked and I really couldn't find any examples of an actual arcade cabinet anywhere for sale in like the last year or so. So this is definitely a very rare cabinet, and I think probably the ZN2 boards probably came as part of a kit, so you could swap them out for something else if you wanted to, sort of the way a lot of other arcade titles work. So the best way you would be able to do that would be to just buy the arcade board itself and hook it up to a JAMA harness, which is like a harness that allows you to connect a regular television and some kind of control unit, like an arcade stick or something like that, to it. So it seemed like, based on all the arcade boards that I saw, the average price for a Strider 2 arcade board was about $656 US. That's just the board. That's not the screen, that's not a cabinet, but you know, getting all that other JAMA stuff, that's probably another $300 or so. So all things considered, if you wanted to play an arcade perfect version of Strider 2 without emulation, you're probably looking at about $1,000, unless you already own all the JAMA stuff, and then you're looking at more like $600. Now, that being said, there were some things on eBay for like $300 or so, and then they went all the way up to like, you know, $1,200. So your mileage may vary depending on how, you know, the quality and whether it's working, or if you'd have to replace some ROM chips or something like that. So unless you're a very dedicated Capcom gamer, I probably personally would not pay $650 for this.
Do we know how much it was new?
Like as an arcade board? I actually don't know that. But let's say it was probably about $5,000. That would be my guess.
Okay, so it's gone down in price.
Yeah, so, because it's, you know, you would have bought it as a kid. It would have included all the marquee art and stuff to put on the control panel and stuff like that. So to be honest with you, it's definitely not my area of expertise is collecting arcade machines, so I could be way off, but it's probably something like a few $1,000 for this originally, if you were an arcade operator and you wanted to buy it. But let's say you want to play this on the PlayStation. You want to play the PlayStation version. That's a little more affordable. It's surprisingly expensive, though. So The most expensive version of this is the PAL region version, so the version that came out for European PlayStations. Loose, a disc copy of this is going to go for about $90 US. Complete, meaning that it has the manual, the case, all that kind of stuff, for the PAL version is $144. New, it seems like the average price is about $376, and there was a graded copy available for $488. The box only actually is relatively cheap, only $18. So if you have a loose disc, it would actually be cheaper for you to find the box and just put those together than it would be to buy them all together. But the manual itself, that's the thing that's going to be setting you back. That's $24 for the PAL version. The next most expensive one is probably the Japanese version. So loose, actually the price between loose and complete for whatever reason was pretty close. A loose disc for the Japanese version would go for about $72, whereas a complete version is about $76. And this is probably down to the fact that most Japanese collectors are loath to separate the disc from the case, so it's probably a lot more common to find them together than it would be in the United States. A new copy, actually the cheapest way to get a new copy of this would be to get the Japanese copy, because that's only going for $198. There's a graded version of the Japanese version going for $218. Not too bad. The box would set you about $31, and the manual for the Japanese version is going to be $19.
Why do you think that it's cheaper
In Japan?
Yeah.
My guess is that this was probably a more common game in Japan.
So supply.
Like this was, at the time, Japanese arcades were probably more prevalent than they were in America. So this was probably something that people were more aware of as an arcade game in Japan. So that would be my guess, is that it's probably related to rarity in this case. I mean, to be honest with you, I had never heard of Strider 2 until the release of the update to MAME came out. So, that's, I don't think it's something that people were collecting for. And the reception in the United States was pretty mixed. So probably even if somebody had collected Strider or owned it for the PlayStation, my guess is that for a long time it probably didn't have a lot of value because people sort of saw it as a lesser non-collectible game, and so it's probably gone up in recent times. That's my guess. But let's talk about the US games. So if you got a loose copy, just the disc is about $60, which isn't horrible for a cult classic PlayStation game. Castlevania, that's probably about $120 nowadays, so it's about half of what a Castlevania Symphony of the Night would set you back for. The complete in-box version of the US one is $120, and a new copy is only $305. So not horrible. Definitely obtainable if you wanted to play Strider 2. I'd say there was a graded copy for $336. This has the most expensive manual. It goes for $50, but the box is similar to the Japanese box at $32. So. But again, I think that's just it's more common for whatever reason. Like people in the States would take their games and put them in like disc envelopes or disc wallets or whatever. So a lot of times you find games without their manuals, and I think that's probably what the case is here as well. Let's see if the guys are still online. Furtive Spy, I don't know if you heard that, but what do you think of them numbers, bro? Personally, I would say that this game is probably most collectible to fans of this guy's art. So people that also like the Street Fighter games, I think it has a pretty interesting look. Like if I ever found it like at a garage sale, or if I found this complete for $50, I would definitely pick it up. I think. This has definitely a cool style. We haven't played the PlayStation version, so it's possible that the PlayStation version is very inferior to this, but I don't know. This feels like it could run on a PlayStation,
Yeah, it doesn't feel too far off what PlayStation could do.
but maybe load times would be longer or something like that. I don't know.
Between levels.
So, that's my recommendation. My recommendation is see if you could find yourself a nice used PlayStation copy. If it's complete, that's great. I don't think that's a must-have. Definitely a fun game. Or fun to watch Rob play anyway,
Yeah, they're definitely worse games to play.
Yeah.
Certainly 2D side-scroller, platformer. This is a lot to like about it.
Yeah.
Probably not quite the level of the best in the genre, but certainly not as bad as the worst in the genre.
Yeah.
I'd say on the upper end, the upper edge, the upper quintile.
We got a comment here from Furtive Spy. He says, if I had me a cool cabinet, that board price seems good to have something like this available. And that's probably true. If you already had like all the JAMA equipment and you were ready to go, I think $300 for a copy of this is pretty reasonable. But the problem with collecting arcade games is that once you start, you're really going down the road of collecting them, and then you're going to end up with a bunch of arcade games in your house, and you have to learn how to fix CRT screens, and it's a long and winding road you're opening up for yourself. I wonder if these are characters from the original game. Like, if you were a big Strider fan, yeah, there we go, Stunlock. Like, if you were a fan of Strider 1, would you be watching this going, oh my god, I can't believe it's Admiral Wilhelm himself. He's back.
The Admiral.
Yeah. Like, would it be like when Wesker showed up in Resident Evil 4, I kind of like that you have this feels like Smash Bros.
Yeah, there's a Smash Bros-ness to it.
Yeah.
The double forward to go fast feels very Smash Brothers.
And I think Strider ended up being in Smash Bros. Maybe at some point. I don't know.
It seems like it makes sense. I mean, I could see it. I mean, if it was, I don't know how much people are demanding it. Maybe in Japan.
Yeah.
In the States, I remember Strider 1 was beloved. People liked that first Strider on the
I love Strider 1. I thought it was awesome.
And it felt really good for NES. I mean, it was pretty beyond most of the things that were happening on that system. But I think that one of the issues with this one is that I think the other top of the line of this version outshines it just a little. I think there's some interesting ideas here. And it's a little bit like a diet Symphony of the Night or...
And I think at this time that this game came out, like these kinds of side-scrolling games, like they just really didn't. They were kind of dead in the arcades, Like I mean, I love these kind of things, like Streets of Rage or whatever, that kind of thing. But I think if you were a gamer at this time, the kind of stuff you were looking for, I mean, fighting games are obviously huge.
Does this have a 2-player mode in the arcade?
I don't think so.
Yeah, see, that might be a big problem too. Yeah. The fact that they didn't have, I think in the arcade, like. I mean, maybe in America only. I don't know if it's the same in Japan, but like I felt like if you didn't have a 4-player mode in like a beam up, it's like
that's true. Like, is it what you mean, like X-Men or
something like that? And
Turtles or something?
It's not the same, but like at least a 2-player mode would be nice.
Yeah, I really like the interstitial art. I didn't even notice that when I was testing this out. And I love this part. That really reminds me of like Ace Combat or something. More so. Oh my god, it's boss rush mode. The solos are back. So this ties us into the last episode, which was in episode 0 that nobody saw, where Rob was talking about the boss rush that was in Bonk. And so it looks like maybe this final battle will be a refight of a lot of the enemies, maybe? I don't know. We'll see.
They seem a little easier, or maybe... But there's a little bit of a physics thing going on. It's like space physics.
Yeah. Furtive Spy comments, you thought you defeated Wilhelm in Strider 1? Think again! This is kind of cool. I mean, this kind of feels like Contra or something.
Yeah, there's some Contra-ness to it. It doesn't quite... It definitely doesn't have the difficulty of Contra.
Yeah.
The unfriendliness of Contra.
Yeah. Well, you don't have one-hit deaths for one thing.
Yeah. But you get nothing in Contra. Like that's the Contra ethos. Is you get nothing.
Yeah.
you got to make it all work yourself in difficult circumstances.
Look at all those scientists just waiting to be turn into whatever, penguins or whatever particular. Oh, now
like
we're back to the
these.
gravity control device one more time.
I like this part right here.
Yeah, this part was
pretty fun.
I remember this being a popular one.
It's interesting because there's like a center of gravity, which maybe there was something like this in a couple other of these PlayStation era 2D platformers, but I don't remember it being like that. Like that little orbit, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Get him.
Not
Hello,
the most-
Paper Alchemist.
Not the most challenging, but fun to look at.
Well, I mean, when you consider that by now you've probably spent about $20 in quarters.
That
you know?
last level was very challenging.
Yeah.
But some of the challenge seems to be mostly just getting over the controls and
Right.
style of platforming.
That's cool when you're jumping all around like that.
But that particular boss is not like
Yeah.
you can kind of just weave your way.
Damn, the central entrance.
Oh, is this guy is this guy like your Strider Ian?
Yeah, this is your rival. I think
is
this
the
is
guy.
I think this is a girl. I think that's the girl from the cutscene that was like, he's a survivor of the Strider program like me or whatever she said. Oh, and you're fighting Strider hens.
And this
Dragon,
fella.
you know? Oh, now you're pulling out all your moves? Yeah, take that. Take that, Strider hen. Yen? Strider Yen, probably.
Probably Ian. Cool.
All right,
cool
just like fighting Dracula at the end of Castlevania.
We'll see if he has as many forms.
And is he gonna switch gravity on you? I wonder.
Maybe.
Warning. Oh
Less
yeah, here we
pits
go.
in this area, so that's actually very nice of them. Little 3D 3D model right there. That thing you're fighting.
Yeah, get him. Are you even doing any damage to that robot thing? It seems like it's like impervious. Oh, he's got like a
like
a
a whale.
lightning fish.
Yeah. Don't think I'm gonna get it in one continue. Almost. It's his little friend.
Yeah, his little friend is cheap. Yeah, get him.
Gosh, those pits. This game, the pits
Right
are
in the
like the
pit.
hardest thing. Because you have no like pull out. You have no.
You just once you're committed
yeah.
to falling in the pit.
You're
Yeah, Grandmaster defeated. All right, let's see what happens now. Oh, the throne room.
Oh,
You thought that
okay.
you thought that was it? No, you
Yeah.
got to beat Caduceus.
Caduceus. The
Probably you have to climb. Oh, Caduceus.
the medical thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go up and slash its little face.
Yeah, that. This is like the first time I've. This is a real boss.
Yeah, there's probably a very specific movement pattern
Yeah.
that if
This
you
is one
were
you have to like
a really amazing player.
do figure out all the dodges. I also don't think I'm very good with the acrobatic moves yet.
At this rate, I'd say it's probably about 5,000 slashes to kill Caduceus. Oh my god. Some interesting kind of transparency layers here, you know? I like the kind of translucent arms of this thing. Kind of a low-res JPEG in the background, though. I don't know about that. And there's probably a way to avoid that by, I don't know what, but...
I think I avoided it. That's the thing is the hitboxes are very forgiving. So
Yeah.
like that fire, I can dodge it by being kind of on the edge of the fire. Same thing with those beams. If I'm like
Yeah.
slightly on the edge of it, it's fine. It's just if I'm right in the middle of it, then it's a problem.
Caduceus down for the count. Wow, look at that. You're sending it crashing into Earth.
Hey. Nice. E.
Strider rank is E. 12-minute clear.
Planner.
There it is. Atsushi Tomita himself.
Nice. So what else did you do, you said?
He's primarily known for the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting game series.
That makes sense.
And
even the newest ones, or just the
he
ones?
specifically worked. Well, he started off working on Marvel superheroes,
and that was the first one, right? And then Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah, he says in 1994 he was an assistant designer on X-Men: Children of the Atom. Oh yes. They did Marvel superheroes. Yep. And then his big break was with X-Men versus Street Fighter in 1996. And then and then he went into the Marvel vs. Capcom series.
Barrage.
Yeah.
Right. Anything from the chat?
Let's see what chat has to say. Chat, what did you think of that? We just cleared it. Nothing. The last thing was commenting on your amazing abilities fighting the last boss.
Well, thank you, but I don't. That was a rough one.
Put in your name, you know? Jeez. How you do that, I don't know, but... Ooh. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Score ranking. E. An hour. It took us an hour to do that. No problem. Definitely did better than other people, and we're doing some nice zooming on the sprite now, some nice sprite scaling.
I bet you it's time-related, your rank.
Yeah. Probably points, damage, something like that, you know? Oh, look at all this. Love it. Not too bad. That's Strider 2, everybody. So this is the Sega Master System game Strider 2, released for various different European computers by US Gold.
This is a rough one. Not the worst controls, considering the time, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Not the worst looking game, considering it's a Master System game.
Oh, I see now. There you go.
Yeah, you're jumping around.
Figured it out.
You're hacking, you're slashing, you know? Let me open this up.
A more challenging game for sure.
We back! Exclamation point. Alright. Some basic sound. Can you climb the tree? No. Yes?
No, you have to kind of hit the branches and then flip up.
I see. But how do you get to that branch?
Oh, those birds.
Oh, these birds
are terrible.
This is kind of a Ninja Gaiden bird situation.
It is worse than that for sure. They put them in definitely unfair places. There is not much you can do about these birds, and they, in contrary to the last game, the hitboxes are humongous.
Yeah, that's half the screen is your hitbox.
You're hitting them well before you touch them. Like, you are getting slammed. But I do love the animations. Like,
yeah, I think for a Master System game, this looks pretty good. I mean, this is at least on par with an NES game, you know?
I mean, you're very acrobatic.
Woo! Yeah. But that's really how the... whoa, did you see how you exploded into, like, hunks of meat? Yeah, meat and cyborg chunks.
Do we have a price on Strider 2, this Strider 2?
Oh, that's a good question. I did not look that up. I can look that up right now. We can do some live research.
Not a great game. I'm gonna be honest with you. Some interesting stuff there, but ultimately a very, very forgettable platformer. Some cool animations.
I mean, probably not an accident that I've had it on this cart and I've never loaded it once, or never had the inkling to check it out or anything like that, for sure. All right. Well, it's not going to set you back much. A loose copy of this game is $10.57. Complete in box is going for $29.41.
You said $10?
$10, yeah. Oh. And a new sealed copy is less than $100. It's $95. So it's definitely obtainable if you want to play this middling platformer for the Master System.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like that would be a very good idea, though, so...
No, unless you had some sort of, like, beloved memory of this game.
Yeah. And that's kind of par for the course with US Gold stuff. Although I do like in that score section, these kind of falling stars with the parallax scrolling in the background. That's got a kind of good 3D effect. But
yeah, I don't think it's total shovelware, but it's not. It's not really.
Yeah.
Up to snuff with the best.
Well, we really sucked the marrow out of Strider 2, I think. We've left no stone unturned as far as this. I don't think I would consider Strider 2 a hidden gem.
No.
But you did update the high score table here, so hopefully that is saved for future generations to come. But yeah.
What are we playing?
What are we playing? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, so let's see. I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking in this episode, so I would let you go first. But I could go. But what do you think about that?
I'm playing Subnautica. Have you heard of Subnautica?
I have heard of Subnautica. That's like it's kind of like not like Rust, but it's a little bit of a survival game, but underwater, sort of like.
That's right. So what I like about it is I don't really like survival games. I tried to play Minecraft and I kind of bounced off of it, and I think it's because I think it's a cool game. I get why people like it. No shade on Minecraft, but I like a game where I'm going somewhere, doing something, have a point. And I think Minecraft is all about not having a point. Which, like, for some people that's great. For me, that's not. I gotta have a reason to be there. But the really cool thing about Subnautica, I got it on sale because I was like, all right, I'll try this out. Is there's a story. So it's like they're taking you through a story. In addition to moving you along very quick through some of the stuff that in like survival games can be just sort of tedious, right? Like building a base. In Subnautica,
that's a part of a survival game I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. Like, you still have to gather materials and stuff, but I think they could do a good job of pacing you pretty quickly through stuff. You get to build little trucks, drive around the ocean. It's beautiful.
Underwater trucks?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I played through the first one, and now I'm on the second one, so the DLC, which is a little bit better. And the level of world building is amazing. So I would say probably the best survival game.
Is it spooky? Kinda?
It is a little spooky.
A little spooky.
A little spooky.
That's what I've heard about it.
But the thing is, it's spooky because, a lot of people have phobia of underwater.
Under hydrophobia or whatever it would be.
I think I had that. But playing this game, it kind of helped. So now, like, it is the first game was spooky. There's parts of the first game that I put myself on like easy mode just to get through it because there was these leviathans and stuff deep underwater. The second one, I've kind of gotten over it. Now I'm like able to sort of just deal with the big monsters in a way that I didn't used to be able to.
Is there like combat and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's very like non-lethal. I mean, there's ways to kill stuff, but a lot of the game makes you. It's easier just to sort of avoid, which is also cool. Like a cool like video game ethos that's always kind of hard to make work. But in a survival game, you can do it because the whole thing you're trying to do is build a base. You're in the second one especially. They put a really good story in there.
Yeah.
So you're trying to discover what happened to your sister. You crash on this planet. You're alone. It's kind of Metroid-esque in that way. And in the same way, the Metroid, you're sort of building up all these powers and abilities. Not like special powers, but like...
Right.
You get all these tools. You get like a truck. You can put things on the back of the truck. Like one's like a
you keep saying a truck, and it's like I really feel like I need to see this.
That's what they call, it's
an
like,
underwater pickup truck or something.
But it's like a little. Imagine like the front of a truck, and that's what you build first, and then you can add little components to the back. Like you can put a tank on there.
That's cool.
And like grab things and put them in the tank. Like grab creatures and put them in the tank and bring them back to your little base. It's just a very like creative.
Are you doing like research? Is there like a purpose to creature collecting?
It's one of those things where they know that the kind of people attracted to survival games are kind of they're going to want to build a nice base, but you can kind of just beeline your way through the story. You don't have to do that, but you can build a nice base with plants and posters and like glass domes, and you can plant and keep creatures in your base and find them and put them in little aquariums and stuff like that. Yeah. Super good. I mean, I'm not the only one who's talking highly of this. They're about to put later this year. They're going to do a Subnautica 2. So these games have been out for a while. I was sleeping on them, so I think they were kind of big maybe a couple of years ago.
I definitely have heard of it, and I've never tried it just because of the kind of the kind of genre of game that I'm usually not a big fan of. But I'm going to have to check it out.
I think you might like it because
Is it on consoles?
it's on PC. I don't know if it's on consoles. If it's on consoles, I would say try it on PC first because I think it'll probably play really nice on PC.
Yeah.
And to me, the two things are, it doesn't disrespect your time, which I think a lot of survival games do. It's fast, it's efficient, you get to the point quickly, you build stuff quickly, you discover stuff quickly, and you can put it down and come back to it, and you've moved fairly quickly through the game. Like,
is there a mechanic where you can lose progress through?
Not much.
Okay.
There is a little bit. Like if you die, it'll what it says is like you lost some of the stuff in your inventory.
So it's like a roguelike from that standpoint.
But it's not a lot. It's like maybe you lost some of the items that you picked up. And once you understand, like the second one, like I've been moving a lot quicker because I know what the cycle is. You go find certain elements, you put the elements together, and you build like stuff.
Right.
But oftentimes you only need to build something once, as opposed to a lot of these other survival games where you have to build the same things over and over again.
Right.
Gather so many blocks and stuff. Like it's a little bit nicer with your time. It's still a time killer.
Yeah.
I don't want to oversell it.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I mean, those games can be, but if you're having a good time, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, you're still having a good time, so it's time well spent.
It's the kind of game where I'll play it while I have like YouTube up on a different screen, and I'm watching like a show that I like to watch and catching up on shows, and I'll play that.
So you don't have to pay too close of attention to it.
No,
if you don't need to.
No,
okay.
But it's a nice like I haven't had many video games to play recently. Like I've kind of been on a lull on new games. Like I haven't seen many new games that I was like, The only one I was looking at was Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah.
But it's not out for the PS5 yet, or wasn't last time I checked.
I got that on my Xbox. PC Xbox account for a while.
Yeah,
so.
I don't have an Xbox One or whatever. Just because I'm tired of throwing down the dough. And there hasn't been like a reason for me to buy that system. I got the PS5.
Yeah.
Even that I sort of like.
Yeah, I mean I like playing games on the couch, so for me it's like that's kind of my primary system. Yeah. But there are some games you can only play on PC, and I just have always had my Xbox account, so I get whatever you get through the PC. And I remember Indiana Jones being one of the ones that they
have you played a little bit of Indiana Jones?
No, I saw that I could play it, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll play that, and then I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. What are you playing?
Right now I've been really kind of getting into like these like so-called boomer shooters, which are kind of like first-person shooters that are in the vibe of like the original Doom or something like that. So the two that I'm playing right now, there's one called Forgive Me Father, which is basically like Doom or Wolfenstein 3D, but set in sort of a Shadow over Innsmouth, H.P. Lovecraft type world. And so like all the like you start off with like a shotgun and a pistol, but eventually it turns into like an eldritch shotgun, and you get kind of stuff like that. And it's a little tense for me, I have to be honest. It's not I have to kind of play it and set it down and play something else because I get a little too worked up about it. But I really like the indie aesthetic of that. Like I'm pretty sure it's a small team that put it together, and the art style is pretty interesting. It appeals to me, that kind of like thing. And I'm also playing another game called Ion Fury, which is was released by 3D Realms, and it's kind of a spiritual successor to Duke Nukem 3D in a way. So it's kind of that art style.
It's like Serious Sam-esque.
Yeah, it's a little more. It's 3D, so it's more like Duke Nukem 3D, and it's very referential to like. There's like pig cops or whatever, but there's like it's like a future techno city, and aliens are invading, and you're sort of going around and quipping one-liners and stuff like that. So, would I recommend either of those? They're both on sale, which is why I picked them up right now on PlayStation. So I would recommend them for the $5 that I spent on them. But I'm just kind of more into it for the vibe of the kind of throwback mid 90s sort of blocky first person shooter type game. So
I played a game like that, Phantom Fury.
I haven't played it.
It's not that good.
Yeah.
I'm telling you to skip that one. Don't get pulled in. It's kind of got that vibe.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. It's a little bit of a cash in on like old school 3D shooter.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I liked about Forgive Me, Father, because it's not simply it's not just about like running around and shooting things in the face. There is kind of like a story element to it that I like. And the artwork has this kind of interesting, almost like stop motion. It's very interesting. Like, it just kind of really has an interesting, like, kind of expressionistic feel to it. And I think that's what I liked about it, because there are a lot of games that are basically just like Serious Sam style, like just run around and shoot things at full speed. And that's not exactly what I'm looking for, but I think that this one particular game was good from that point of view. So I don't know. We might have a segment at some point on boomer shooters, and maybe we'll have a segment on survival games too. You know, I'm sure there's other stuff.
Yeah. So. Survival games are interesting theoretically. It's kind of like roguelikes. So much of the genre doesn't work for me because there isn't like clear goals.
Yeah, or if the gameplay isn't fun. Like, I played a lot of Rogue Legacy, which was kind of Castlevania-like, and so the gameplay in that one was fun enough that the kind of very slow leveling up progression, I could put up with it, because every time I unlocked some new skill, it was exciting to go back and kind of use the new skill and get a little bit farther. But in general, that's not, I think, you kind of get to a point where you're like, why am I doing this? This is just a waste of time. But some people like that. I have some friends that play like Rust and stuff, and they've like worked months and months on a base that ends up getting captured and destroyed by another team.
Well,
that's not for
like,
me.
So that's the thing is, like, so Subnautica is not multiplayer. Subnautica 2, they're gonna add co-op.
Interesting.
So that to me, like, I'm not much of a multiplayer. I like to play board games competitively. I like to play board games against other people, real life on the computer, but it's turn-based. And typically, like, anything sort of real time, I'm probably just not fast enough. I probably could get good if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But interacting with people like randos online, never been my style.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we used to play Destiny. That's the last time I played with like actual people online. And in Destiny, it paid to like know the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Right? It's more of a co-op experience.
Well, it had enough of that. Some of the high-level stuff is complicated enough that you need to be able to really communicate well with the person you're playing with. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm definitely not a competitive gamer either. And the thought of like just losing that much progression for grief's sake, it's not for me.
It feels like such a like libertarian bait, Rust.
Interesting. Like, yeah.
Like,
I haven't thought about it as what Rust represents from like a political standpoint, but I definitely think you could make that argument.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's got. I'm not saying everybody, but there's definitely
would appeal to somebody with that. And the people I know who do play it, that definitely fits with that aspect.
So I mean, they might say like, well, that's what you get.
Yeah, but then it's like, well, that's not fun. My time is worth more to me than that. So I don't know.
If I didn't have the strength to protect my goods, then I deserve to lose all my base that I built.
Yeah, I guess so. Hours. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I don't know. And there is a lot of like dividing, tasks, and labor has a certain value and stuff. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I'll definitely try out Subnautica because it doesn't have that aspect of like grief.
No, it's good. It'd be nice to get it on sale because I don't want to like oversell it because it's one of those games like if you have to fit what it's trying to do, and it's a very specific kind of thing. It's like you kind of want to sort of zone out. It's a zone out game. It's not like you zone out, you collect. You kind of want to be able to have fun, collect, like going to the seafloor and taking diamonds and putting them in your pocket and eating fish and like trying to stay alive. And
yeah, I mean, I could say I played this game called Pacific Drive, and on the Reddit for that, a lot of people have said that if you like Pacific Drive, you'd probably also like Subnautica because they're sort of similar in terms of like delving. But Pacific Drive doesn't really have a lot of combat. It's more like you can get into situations where you can
kind of wipe your, like, you die and go back to your kind of roguelike base. But there isn't like, you're not attacking anything, but there are kind of like anomalies and stuff that can hurt you. So,
Yeah.
So I was thinking, so I've already kind of had Subnautica in the back of my head. It's like, oh, I should check that out someday. So
Yeah.
definitely moving it up the list slightly more, I'd say. So
I'm trying to build up my cadre of people to play the co-op of 2 when it comes out.
well, I guess I'm probably gonna get roped into that, one way or the other, So yeah, should
So
be
that's
fine.
another thing. Trying
Yeah.
to like slide it in there. The other thing, I'm playing a lot more board games these days. Tabletop games, as they call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I know that's a big part of your diet, your gaming
Yep.
diet.
Yeah. Some other channels I'm trying to start. Some other streams and stuff I'm trying to start. One is around a game called Vampire Rivals. Very niche game at this point.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So it's. I don't know if you know anything about Vampire the Masquerade.
Well, I played the
World of
RPG, the
Right.
PC RPG that came out
So there.
a while ago.
That universe started as an RPG, in the 90s, or maybe it was the 80s. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. Somewhere in the 80s and 90s, and got
Feels
big,
about right. Yeah.
got big in that second wave goth in the late 90s. I don't
Right.
remember. Marilyn Manson kind of
Etc.
kind of
Yes.
Nine Inch
Yeah,
Nails
yeah.
and stuff like that. Joan and Vasquez. So that was like, it got big, and there was a card game back then called Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, made by Richard Garfield. If you know Richard Garfield from
I do not.
Magic: The Gathering,
Okay,
Yeah,
I've
so you
heard
know
of
that.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
he's the mathematician, PhD mathematician that created Magic: The Gathering. He also then did Vitesse. So that was his second game, at least second or third game. Didn't make as much money, wasn't as popular, kind of died out, but is still alive actually. There's like a fan group that makes that game still and puts out cards every year.
Interesting.
But another game got built by Renegade, which is a newer board game company. It's called Vampire Rivals. It's a 4-player multiplayer game. So it's built to be a multiplayer game. It's a card game, but instead of like a 1v1, it's a 4-player. And it's much more about entanglement and politics, like actual table politics. So
Yeah.
you kind of have this opportunity to sort of like, to be like, well, I'm about to, hurt you, so why don't you do this thing for me in your next turn? That kind of stuff.
I mean, the only game I'm not as well versed in tabletop games, but I did have played a little Twilight Imperium, and I know that there's a little because it's such a complicated game.
Does anybody
to get
play a
into.
little Twilight Imperium?
I played several 8-hour sessions of Twilight Imperium, but it also had that sense of like
That's exactly right.
diplomacy, I guess.
Yeah, it's some people call it politics, but politics is weird because it's not like politics. It's just you have to converse your way into or out of things through leverage. Like things that are happening in the game, you leverage a future state and convince people
Right.
to do things for you based on understanding the game and making deals. Probably the best example of this game would be like, I don't know if you've ever played Diplomacy.
No.
Classic game. Friendship Ender. Like one of the most friendship ending games ever made.
Yeah.
Imagine Risk.
I mean, that's how I feel about Settlers of Catan.
Well,
like my old boss at Ubisoft was a big Settlers of Catan guy, and I think it was specific. Like I just think it was like his way of like fighting with people at work without actually having fights with them. Like he was getting out his aggressions about people that way. And I never thought I just was like, this game is not fun. It's just all about butting heads with people.
I'm not a
Yeah.
big fan of Settlers. I have lots of issues with Settlers. Settlers it's also a game where like 2 people at max can be enjoying it at any given time based on the way the board sets up. So either you're the 2 people that could possibly have a good position, or you are in a terrible corner,
or you're just constantly getting screwed or whatever.
And then you're sitting there with a bunch of stuff that people want, and they have leverage over you. So like you're constantly making bad deals because you have to.
Yeah.
And then you feel terrible. It's a not a good feeling game. It's not. I think it's one of those games where like if you've only ever played Monopoly and Risk and stuff, you're like, this has got a little bit more design to it. Interesting. But after you play it a couple times, you're like, this is not quite it.
Yeah. Well, I think with Monopoly. Well, now we're talking about Monopoly, but like I think there's a certain point in Monopoly where it dawns on you like there's really no good endpoint to this game. It's basically just a terrible. It's just basically a terrible system of fighting with your family.
Yeah,
and it's not really fun in the end for anybody but one person.
Exactly.
You know?
So Monopoly has the problem of either it's total complete random luck,
Yeah.
or somebody is dumb enough to take your bad deal.
Yeah.
Right. You can't really build a good deal with somebody.
Yeah.
You can only build one-sided terrible deals with people.
Yeah.
And they should never take any deals. Like nobody should ever take a deal in that game.
Yeah.
But you're you're encouraged to, because otherwise there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
It's almost like in order to kind of play at the theme, you need to be bad. Like you kind of are going against what the game is telling you to do. Yeah, no, Monopoly's a mess.
Or you would have to build like a corporation almost, where it's like you and one other person are building monopolies to counter another group of people, but ultimately you're going to be consolidated. Like there's going to be a corporate buyout at some point where one person just is subsumed by the other or whatever.
There's a better game in that theme called Acquire. I don't know if you've ever played that. It's another classic from Avalon Hill, which is like a classic.
I've heard of Avalon Hill,
yeah. One to check out. Much better businessy, real estate game that has a lot better game design and is a lot more fun. You can play it more and it's more skilled. And
I don't know if you can see it, but there's up there. I have a game for the Odyssey 2, which is called Wall Street Bets or something, and it's like this very complicated board game that you would play with this old 70s computer thing over here.
Really?
And it had like little pieces, and you're buying stocks and selling stocks, and the computer does some kind of computational stuff so that the stocks will go up and down kind of randomly over time. But the idea is that you're like learning about finances.
I feel like I've seen those games on like, I think there's a couple games like that on NES. That I've seen before too.
Yeah, there's like a Wall Street Kid or something. Yeah.
Very odd.
I don't know why you would play it.
Right. I don't know why.
But
feels
some people, I guess some people, their parents are stockbrokers or whatever, so they have the need to like share their world with their kids or something. I don't know.
It feels like a concept that never quite they got into something that was actually fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess Monopoly is like that too. Like if you really in the abstract, if you were trying to describe Monopoly to somebody, it's like, well, why would I play this with like a 5-year-old kid? But that's when I played Monopoly, because it's fun to have fake money and
it's like a time waster. Yeah, it feels a little bit like there is a system there, but the system is on top of dice, like random dice rolls. So it just feels it's kind of like and like I just remember, I think a lot of people in Europe look at Americans with the board games that we grew up with and go,
they're all terrible.
Yeah,
Sorry, Uno, they're all these like zero-sum game sort of
just dice rolls.
Yeah, exactly. Total
chance,
luck and also screwing over everybody in your family or whoever you're playing with.
But like having great aesthetics, right? I mean, Monopoly might as well be just aesthetics. Same thing with Sorry, or like what was the one, the bubble in the middle? Trouble. I love that game.
What's the difference between Trouble and Sorry? They're similar games.
They're pretty much the same, except in the bubble in the middle. Where you hit it to do the dice.
Yeah. Anyway, all that is to say, we started talking about some game in the Vampire the Masquerade.
Ah, right. So, getting to it. Vampire Rivals, pretty cool game. Entanglement.
So is this a deck building game?
Deck building game.
Okay.
It's a ECG format, which is as opposed to CCG. So Magic is like randomized 15 card pack. You don't know what you're gonna get. There's like slots. So in order to get every single card, there's like some 300 cards per set.
Right.
You have to buy a lot of packs. In an ECG format, you buy a box. It gives you 3 copies of everything in this whole set. So you're and that's kind of the kind of games I've been playing for a while. Fantasy Flight kind of perfected it, but they kind of got away from it. And really, the only ECG out right now is Vampire Rivals. It's a big reason why I'm playing it. And part of it's because it was just a hard business model to maintain when you have things like Magic just making so much money.
It doesn't really. It is kind of a. It's like to like put it in a video game analogy. It's like, why make a single player game when microtransactions exist if you're a businessman that owns a company that's making video games?
I think especially after they put going back to video games, after they put out Magic Arena, So Magic Arena is a huge moneymaker for them, for Magic. Like it boosted their numbers huge, and it's a free to play model. So you can play it without having to spend anything. So you can get free Magic cards, except nobody ever does that, right? It's the free to play model where it's like, well, you could pay us and you go faster. And it's like such a genius move for a game like that to get your game on a free to play, fully. You know, you can run it on any type of system. You can play it on a phone. Right. It's in your pocket. And against that, it's hard to make an ECG work. Right. Right. But it's chugging along. It's still going. I just did a tournament. I just won a tournament this Sunday.
Nice.
So
what are the stakes of a Vampire Rivals tournament?
Very low.
Okay. So you're not like winning somebody else's card deck or something like that.
But back in the day, like in 2022, that was like the height of the game. And I would go around the country to like sanctioned tournaments by the company when they were still doing it. And they had these things called prints, and I won one of the princes, and they printed my face on a card.
Oh, sweet. Wow.
So
interesting.
So that's the and they also, for another one, they gave me a blown up like painting size of one of the card arts as well. So I've gotten a couple trophies through the.
That's pretty impressive. I was not even aware of that, of your pedigree as a professional, or not a professional, as a competitive ECG champion. So
for this game,
interesting.
For this game, I got to that level. Yeah.
So we might get a subset of the audience that's coming here just for tips and tricks specifically related to winning that.
I did post it in that in a server I run.
Okay.
That's for that with. A couple.
Well, I know like Steam has that kind of virtual sort of tabletop game. It's not a game, but it's like a platform or whatever. So I wonder if it's the kind of thing that we could stream in that sense.
We've streamed games before. Yeah. There's a version of it on Tabletop Simulator. That's the best way to stream it.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
And I actually run that mod. So like, yeah, I mean, and I run a worldwide server, so I could find people to play with too. Yeah, no, it's something that on maybe a different channel with a different maybe a sister or brother channel.
Keep it tuned in here to the Turbo Retro Network for updates on that coming soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet.
Yeah, cool. Anything else you've been playing?
Not really. I spent an inordinate amount of time preparing for this episode, to be honest, and we still had a lot of technical difficulties. So
we'll get it.
But that's a big part of the Geek Cave is troubleshooting. So part of the reason that we're streaming is to sort of show everybody the headaches of putting together a podcast like this, I guess.
Oh, yeah. It's, I've tried many times.
I just bought, I don't know. I play a lot of Destiny 2 all the time. I got this new sweet computer so that I could play Star Citizen with my brother, and
nice.
I haven't done any of that. So someday soon I'll be doing that. But no, mostly this last few days I spent time researching Strider 2 and trying to figure out this audio. The audio setup has actually been pretty good, I think.
Yeah. No, audio's perfect.
So we just got to figure out the video parts.
Yep.
And lighting, I think, and I think we'll be getting it slowly dialed in here, So
yeah, we're learn something new every single time. I mean, what are we doing next? Do we know?
I don't know. I think that what we can tease is that this kind of thrust of this particular podcast is going to be kind of threefold. We're going to be talking about like collecting, I think, just in general, as a general kind of concept, but then we also want to take a look at hidden gems. So I think in the next few episodes we'll probably choose a game similar to what we did with Strider 2, and then we'll just play it and talk about it. And so I think both of us have ideas for what that could be. We have lots of systems here, and so there's definitely stuff that we could dig into. So maybe we could present that to the audience, like whoever's watching this on YouTube. If you have ideas for hidden gems, let us know. But I know I personally have a couple games for the Saturn and the PlayStation 1 that I was thinking about taking a look at. But yeah, so that's probably going to come up. And then I think the last thing that we sort of wanted, that we were kind of talking about doing, was just sort of
what we did with the news. I think we might make some adjustments to how that goes, because I felt a little bit like I was just jabbering away while you were playing. So we might have to do a little bit of that. But yeah, there's a couple of games I'd really like to look at on Saturn. And so I haven't decided if from my point of view I want to do like themes and stuff like that. Like it's like, oh, let's look at like Vampire the Masquerade is kind of a good example. Like maybe we do a few like gothic horror.
There's a lot of failed Vampire the Masquerade video games.
Yeah. So, well, wasn't there going to be an RPG that was going to come out, Bloodlines 2 or whatever? And
that's a great example of that. That one that's been development hell forever.
Yeah.
Never going to come out. Not in a good way.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, I played Bloodlines 1, I don't know, 2006 or whenever it was that came out.
That's like really the best game that's ever been put out for that setting.
But I think that's something that we could kind of explore as sort of like thematic looks at, like, oh, we're going to take a look at, like, I don't know, rally racing games or gothic horror games or whatever. Whatever. Yeah. So that's a little teaser. We'll see what's coming up. We'll probably post to the socials when we get a bit better idea of that. But stay tuned.
A lot of fun that's going to be incoming for the audience.
That's right. So thank you for stopping by, and hopefully we'll have some more exciting nights in the Geek Cave with a little less technical difficulties in the future.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm Turbo Ryan, and this has been Turbo Retro Duo with my co-host
Turbo Rob.
That's right. Thanks a lot for coming by, and we will see you next time.